In this video, I'm going to go over some of the differences I found between the different versions of the Pokemon Presents. You're probably going to think that the only difference is the text or language, but we actually see weirdly different footage. First of all, the Japanese and Korean trailers are way clearer in quality. The English trailer suffers from way more compression than the Japanese one. So I guess there's some kind of difference there because of the visual quality. The second difference we can notice is that the textures look a lot clearer in the Japanese trailer, and it doesn't look like it's always because of the compression difference. We also see in this beach shot that in the English version, the trees' textures are a lot blurrier. Most of the shading on the mountains in the background is completely gone in the English one, and the vegetation kind of blends into itself. But in the Japanese version, everything is way clearer, you can see more details in the background, and the vegetation is way crisper. But again, that might just be compression, it's hard to tell. When you're fighting the Growlithe, we get a completely different angle for some reason. I prefer the colors in the Japanese one too, because it looks like the footage is more saturated and has higher contrast. In this shot where Professor Laventon tells the player that Pokemon are terrifying creatures, we can see that the shot has been changed a lot in the Japanese one. The animation has been improved so he's kind of nodding his head while he's talking and it looks a bit more natural, and the colors are way nicer. In the shot where you're fighting the Ursa Ring, your Rhydon is way bigger, and the colors of the environments are slightly nicer. When the Crobat gets hit by Gyarados in the Japanese trailer, the trainer covers his head a bit, which is a nice detail. In the English one, he just sits there. In the Korean trailer, when Lucario gets hit, the player falls over. When we see the player complete the mission Wurmple Can Evolve, we see that he's both smaller in the Japanese version, which looks better in my opinion, and the colors of the environments are a lot nicer. And maybe you'd think it's a different time of day, but it looks like the shadows are in the same spot. In the footage where we see the player fight a Shinx, the sizes of the Pokemon look a lot better. When the player's fighting Gastrodon with their Lucario, you can see that the size difference is super noticeable. Lucario goes from the size of a toddler to about the same size as the player. The Gastrodon sizes are also different. We can also see that there's a pathway in the English and Korean trailer, but in the Japanese trailer, it's just grass. We also see this island with a volcano in the background in the Japanese footage, which we don't see at all in the English one. Also, someone by the name of Pokemon Awe did a comparison between the English and Korean trailers, where you can see that there's some shots that are cropped very differently. So I'll link that in the description if you want to look at it. I'm assuming that the footage was filmed at different stages of development because a lot of the footage looks more finished than other. The Japanese footage in general has better textures. It seems like the rendering of details on mountains and stuff is a lot better. There's more animations in the Japanese and Korean trailers. The Pokemon sizes are best in the Japanese trailer, or at least they seem the most accurate. And the colors and saturation is just better in general. And I really doubt that they just upped the saturation for the trailer footage because a lot of the colors in the other shots are identical. I mean, it'd be weird if they just upped the saturation for the game for the trailer only and then the game doesn't actually look like that. I don't think that's the case. I think what's happened here is that the lighting is just improved a lot in the later revisions of the game and they just didn't have time to put that in all the trailers. But that's just speculation. Maybe there were some last minute changes made to the Japanese trailer, and because there's a lot of text involved, they just didn't have the time to fix the other two trailers up because they would need to re-record some of the footage. I don't know, man. This is weird, but it's interesting. I'm glad to see that the Japanese trailer looks a bit better graphically, and I'm glad that the Pokemon sizes seem a lot more accurate now. What do you think? Do you think all the texture improvements are just the compression? Do you think sizes are variable, or do you think they're just being finalized? It seems to me like the Japanese trailer has just been filmed later than the other ones. As a random side note, I also want to point out, I think I might have figured out the draw distance in this game. There's this shot with the two Scorpii in the background. When the player character is riding on Weirdeer, there's a couple of frames in the beginning when we see what looks like a Bidoof in the background. If this is the max render distance for Pokemon in this game, I mean, I'd say that's a pretty good distance because I can't even tell what that is. I'm just guessing that it's a Bidoof. But since we see it disappear the way it does, I'm pretty sure that's the maximum render distance. That's a hell of a lot better than Sword and Shield. I know this is super different from my other videos, but I just had to point this out. Once I realized the trailers were this different, I just had to talk about it. It's kind of weird. But hey, I'm excited for this game. I hope it's going to be good. I'm not super confident yet, but we'll see. Thanks for watching.